It is the holiday Christmas tree type, hailing back all the way from the days of Medarot 5, and it's always honestly rather unique designs from start to finish in the roster. It is FIR00 Merrychri, coming to the game with a kit of triple canceller, float legs, and the leg ability of Holy Grace, which buffs all leg stats minus 8 armor and heavy limit for every positive effect applied to that user, which honestly does fit very well into his motif. Now, across the board, triple canceller will tie in immediately into the redundancy clause, which makes it very hard to use Merrychri as a pure set, and even as mixed parts. Canceller is one of those lesser used, not often used, if any, ailments, so that really won't see a lot of use except in very specific scenarios. But to explain it briefly, Canceller is a melee-based ailment that, upon attacking an opponent, will render them unable to use certain targeted skills. So if, say for instance, if you target the left arm and attack and successfully damage it, it will prevent that particular opponent from using that left arm until stat cleanse is applied to remove it, or until the bot does go down. Float legs, of course, mean that Merrychri is going to have very solid terrain coverage on all terrains, at A rank and, of course, S rank on Cyber. And the Holy Grace on top of that does mean that it is going to have a very solid place, even compared to most other conventional float legs, because if you compare it off with a supporter-based bot, say, for instance, Omega Knight or Sadahime's Dominion, or even Blazermate or Manjiro's Cybercore, that's going to automatically kick in and apply Merrychri right off the bat, which allows this float leg, even with its mediocre stats, to get progressively better and overall more efficient. So as a pure set score, I would honestly rate Merrychri, even as an event reward, a pretty solid 5 out of 10. Having triple canceller, like I mentioned, does apply into the redundancy argument, which makes using Merrychri as a pure set very difficult, and even after it's been used, it does end up kind of allowing him to stand there and more or less do nothing, which will overall hurt the team's viability. As mixed parts, I would rate him pretty equally at a 5 out of 10 as well, maybe even a 5.5 depending on the particular case. As in the rare instance where Canceller can be used, having all three of Merrychri's parts being non-heavy means that you can fit Canceller in just about anywhere without any major drawback or any kind of setback more than anything else. And the float legs are pretty good though, with a pretty solid HP of about 3100 and base stats, and I want to emphasize this, base stats. So even though these stats do look rather low on his legs, remember that with the Holy Grace ability, all of these except our heavy limit and armor go up for every positive effect in play. So if you can say, for instance, like I mentioned, pair it off with Dominion or Cybercore or even Hypercrep to a point, you can very quickly buff all those leg stats and bring them up to speed with everyone else on the field.